What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to look at another penny stock in the form of High Tide, which is a cannabis company, ticker symbol HITIF. So just like the technology sector and electric vehicles, I find that the cannabis sector has a lot of potential over the coming years. So for High Tide today, we're going to look at the company overview to look at some of their products and some of their goals. We'll then have a look at their current share price to see if it's under or overvalued, and my thoughts for this company going forward. And finally, probably most importantly, we're going to look at some interesting news articles that will act as catalysts for this stock going forward. Firstly, just two things before we get into today's video. First of all, it goes without saying that I am not a financial advisor, so you need to do your own due diligence before you invest any of your hard-earned capital. And the second thing is, if you're new around here, it'd be much appreciated if you consider subscribing to the channel, as we're currently on 830 subscribers. And with all that being said, let's dive right into today's video. So just firstly, a quick overview of who High Tide actually are. They're currently in business over 10 years and were founded back in 2009. We can see here that their portfolio concludes mostly of Canadian cannabis retail chains, a global manufacturer and distributor of cutting-edge smoking accessories, and the largest accessories e-commerce platform in the world. One thing I really like about High Tide is that they've consistently improved and diversified as the years went by. We can see on screen here a timeline that all started back with Smoker's Corner back in 2009, and it came all the way up to Meta Growth acquired up in 2020, and currently have 67 branded retail cannabis stores across Canada. Another thing that I find very impressive with High Tide is that they have a lot of celebrity endorsers and licenses, most notably Snoop Dogg. Again, in terms of this category or sector, that's certainly a name you want associated with your brand. But we can also see the likes of Cheek and Chong. They have Trailer Park Boys, Kevin Smith, Hellboy, Radio Days, Jane West, just to name but a few. Like a penny stock, like High Tide, it is very impressive, I believe, that they have a lot of product offerings, and they really do have a lot of kind of well-established names associated already. Some of the products include Canna Cabana, Meta Cannabis, New Leaf, Kush Bar, Grass City, CBD City. We then have the likes of Valiant Distribution, famous brands, etc. So again, it's very promising to see that they are very diversified across this sector. HITIF is currently trading at about 66 or 67 cents per share. Now, some of the other penny stocks that we've researched over the past few days, we've kind of noticed a more kind of straight up direction, which I feel is a lot more volatile, as companies like this, in terms of the graph, is a lot more reassuring in terms of up and down instead of just going extremely straight up in a line. So this time, about a month ago, they were sitting at about 30 cents per share. So they're after doubling in value over the last 1 month. If you go to the 6-month chart, it looks pretty much the same. About 6 months ago, they were sitting at about 20 or 21 cents a share. And then if you go back to the 1-year chart, again, you can kind of notice the more steady progression, albeit it is kind of going up rapidly as well. However, it's not like some of the other penny stocks that literally go straight up and come crashing back down. So I do kind of prefer a graph like this when looking up penny stocks. When it comes to these style penny stocks, catalysts obviously play a huge role in their price. As we can see here, over the last few days, the High Tide has launched sale of hemp-derived CBD products on grasscity.com, and also that shows that they have now begun selling hemp-derived CBD products into the US and the European Union. So this further consolidates the High Tide's strong position within the US e-commerce market for the consumption, accessories and hemp-derived CBD products, and comes to the heels of company's recent announcement as they entered into agreement to acquire Smoke Cartel Incorporated. Now, access to this CBD across the US and the EU is major news for High Tide, in my opinion, because it really does show that it's consolidated its Canadian market and it's expanding further horizons. And obviously, if you can tap into the US and the EU markets, it's only going to be of added benefit to the company going forward. In terms of penny stocks, volatility and kind of the chances of the companies going bust is usually a big worry in investors' minds. However, it's very promising news when you see news articles such as on Yahoo Finance of High Tide actually opening their 70th store, the 70th cannabis store. And I also find it very interesting when you actually read through this article that they're kind of going to neighborhoods that aren't already saturated with these kind of cannabis stores. So that's kind of very interesting and promising to see that they are thinking outside the box and trying to take advantage of different business obstacles. For example, we can see their CEO mention that, I'm quoting, that the new store is part of their strategic plan to build, scale and drive revenue growth by selectively opening new locations in neighborhoods that are not oversaturated with existing cannabis retail options. Two other quick points again is that High Tide is currently trading on OTC markets, and also some news from last week as well is that they're selling units at 48 Canadian cents to raise $15 million as well. One of the main reasons for this 15 million Canadian dollars we can see on screen is that High Tide intends to use the proceeds of this offering for opening new retail cannabis stores in different locations, completing strategic acquisitions. One of such we just talked about earlier, opening their 70th store. Also, the general operator and working capital purposes, and for such other purposes to be described in the prospectus. So we've already touched on some major catalysts for this stock, such as their 137% increase in e-commerce sales at the end of last year. Also, things such as celebrity endorsers, such as Snoop Dogg, which is huge brand ambassador or a brand to have within your company in this type of sector. We also discussed they opened a 70th store in Canada, so that's another big milestone. But for me, something that is a major contributor to their overall stock price going forward is if they can actually get onto the Nasdaq. Now we can see on screen here that High Tide announced their application back in December to get listed within the Nasdaq. An article back in December about filing to get onto the Nasdaq, we can see the CEO state that they're very excited with this prospect. Obviously that goes without saying, but with their recent acquisition of Meta Growth, they are now Canadians' largest retailer measured by revenue, and listing on the Nasdaq would allow the company to expand its shareholder base, enhance shareholder value, and accelerate the company's M&A initiatives in pursuing strategic opportunities within the US. In terms of if I'm going to invest in this company, just like HCMC that I discussed yesterday, I opened up a very small position, and that's kind of mainly due to keeping my interest within the company. Now, even though it's trading at about 60 cents or so a share, High Tide for me is definitely a very promising up and coming kind of cannabis sector company, and probably the main reasons for that is because of their vast array of different product offerings, their celebrity endorsers, their kind of store growth and online e-commerce that I discussed that are up 137% in sales in December. And also to mention again that we just discussed is that they're filing to get onto the Nasdaq, and I feel if they can get onto the Nasdaq, the share price is only going to benefit from this. So as I get paid on a monthly basis, it won't be next week until I actually invest into this company. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this company is in a week's time. And as you know, with penny stocks, a lot can change in a week. So we'll kind of revisit this at the start of next week. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday when I'll be investing another €400 to €500 within my overall trading 2-on-2 portfolio. I currently have about 7,000 or so euro invested. So we'll see where the company is in terms then. However, I probably will buy a small position in this company regardless, as I do see there's a lot more upside than downside potential for this company going forward. So that's pretty much it from me in terms of today's video. I just wanted to give my 2 cents in terms of High Tide, ticker symbol HITIF. We had a brief look, an overview of what the company does and some of their overall products and what their kind of USPs or unique selling points are. We then had a look at their current share price, and we also looked at some news articles that can act as catalysts for this company going forward. If you found this video anyway helpful, interesting or entertaining, it'd be much appreciated if you give it a like. And if you're new around here, again, it'd be great if you consider subscribing to the channel. And most importantly, if you have any questions, comments, queries or suggestions, please don't hesitate to comment below, and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks very much guys, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video.